Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire. Everything's on fire.
Welcome back, Heat Seekers. Today is going to be a fun day. We are going to be SuperFlex rookie mock drafting, and we've got a great guest here, a fellow Bear fan, so this should be fun. Sully over there rocking the Vikings, Nick and I rocking the Bears. Both of us ecstatic that the Bears got Justin Fields. But Nick, why don't we just get right into it? Why don't you let everybody know what you do, your background, everything like that?
Yeah, underscore Nick Whalen on Twitter. I think that's where a lot of us do some of our work at. But I'm a film-based guy. I've done college coaching, high school coaching. It's been 12 years of that, so it's been I guess that's my expertise. Literally Ryan McDowell found me on a message board and said, "Hey, do you want to write at DLF?" And that's how I started 7 or 8 years ago. So ever since then, I've been in the industry doing reports, podcasts, articles, whatever. Lately, I've been doing consulting, which is kind of fun. So I just help people one-on-one with their teams. But in the end, I just like talking.
Yeah, I saw you post that. I don't know if it was today. I seen it today, but that one-on-one stuff, that's got to be fun. That's got to be fun.
Yeah, it reminds me of coaching. Really, I mean, I just like that. I like helping people. I mean, in the end, I'm not here to be famous or make $1 million, but I'm like, hey, if I can help one person with their team and, or give them a perspective, that's what it's about.
Sully, how are you doing today?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. As always, enjoy doing the mocks and getting to meet folks and chat with folks like Nick. And it's always nice to have you on here, brother. Nice guest host job for you. Thank you for filling in for Brad.
Yeah, you made me feel bad that I didn't even mention Brad being gone. And I feel terrible that I can't remember exactly what the name of what he's doing is, but it has something to do with the pastor life. So Brad's a little bit busy tonight, so I said I would step in and take over the role that I held for 3 years on Tuesday nights. And
yeah.
I feel like I'm on it. I'm on it as much as I was before. Brad and his vacations and whatnot. I give it up so he can have some Dynasty fun, and he's on vacation every Tuesday.
And you're in here for me next week, so you're going to be a regular again before you know it.
Okay, so this draft is starting off a little different.
Yeah.
Than about any mock I've seen. So it may be because they didn't realize it was SuperFlex, so maybe they'll realize that after this the quarterbacks go next. But Nick, I'm assuming Lawrence is your 101.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the quarterbacks following up, how do you have them ranked?
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends. Before the draft, I had it a little bit differently than post-draft, but I am not a Trey Lance truther. His tape is ugly, honestly, and people are gaga over his running ability. But if they didn't see Easton do close to the same stats, besides a little bit less rushing, but the same touchdowns in that same offense, they're a little I guess mistaken. You need to go back and see that offensive designed quarterback runs, etc. So he's a little bit lower for me, even with the landing spot. But yeah, I would have it right now. I would have it T-Law, Fields, Wilson, and then probably Lance.
Sully, how are you landing on those three?
I'm a little bit the opposite. So I am Trevor Lawrence at the top, and I think he's in a tier by himself. And then I kind of clump them all together, and I go Lance, Fields, Wilson, and then a little bit further down Jones. I do like the rushing upside of Lance and Fields. I think they're both creative quarterbacks as well. I have a feeling that Wilson might be the best NFL quarterback of that group, but from a fantasy perspective, when you add in that rushing upside, I'd kind of put Fields and Lance ahead of those two. Lance is a little bit ahead of Fields for me. I like where he landed. He was ahead of him in my pre-draft rankings as well. It's like I like what I saw. Maybe I'm not watching the right things, but I like the arm. I like the mobility. I like the fact that he limited his mistakes in college as well. The biggest concern I have with Lance is the limited amount of starts. So hopefully he can be more Kyler Murray type with 1 year under his belt. So we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, this is a little fun because we're all three different. Mine didn't really move after the draft, except for the fact that my bias is probably would have me drafting Fields more, but I was Wilson, Fields, Lance. Um, Obviously T-Law first, but I also had them very close, and it was kind of one of those things where if I had the opportunity to pick from the three different times, I may have taken each of them once. Now I would be lying if I would say that I wouldn't take Fields the most out of the bunch if I had the same opportunity every time.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I've never been able to confidently start one of my team's quarterbacks in any league. So I would love to have that opportunity going forward. But I do agree, like Lance is such a hard one for me to figure out because I think there's a lot of stuff that kind of mirrors what we've seen from Trubisky when he came out. Where there was limited starts, but they were pretty good. And then goes number 2, and I don't know what we're gonna get there. So he was the one that I was least confident about. But Nick, how far behind that trio was Mac Jones for you?
Well, honestly, pre-draft, I had and Mac Jones is 4. I think people again, this is whatever trend is going in the NFL, that's what everyone believes. If it's the fast receivers or if it's the big tall receivers, now it's the mobile quarterbacks. Well, I mean, who just won the Super Bowl? Was it a mobile quarterback? Phil Rivers had a whole career doing this. So did Drew Brees. And people forget about this. Mac Jones had a season last year at Alabama better than Tua had statistically. And we just dismiss him because he's a guy that can't run very much. I mean, in the end, first round pick quarterback in a SuperFlex league, and I don't think he should be dropping that far. Trey Lance looked poor, and the only one he had against an FBS team this last year. I know it's a whatever you want to. But previous to that, I mean, they're playing as the Alabama of the FCS. I mean, they win so many titles, so many good recruits. He didn't have pressure in the pocket, wasn't accurate. I mean, the floor is really low. And so for me, pick a first round pick, I'm not gambling as much there. You want to talk about second, third round rookie pick? Sure, I'll gamble. High upside guys, good athlete. I mean, it's really, really risky in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree on all the Mac Jones stuff. It's a little frustrating watching everybody make excuses of why it was the team around him that made him so good last year when it was virtually like the same situation that we've seen with Joe Burrow the year before. A bunch of talent, great statistics, but everybody loved him. Everybody hates Mac Jones. Obviously, his pro day wasn't the best pro day you would like to see, but I did not have him as far behind those other quarterbacks as a lot of people did myself. Sully, how did you feel when it came to Mac Jones?
Yeah, he's definitely a first-round SuperFlex rookie quarterback to me. He is a little bit further behind the other 4. But that said, I do really like where he ended up. I think he's starting there a lot sooner than probably most think he is. And, you can't argue the numbers that he put up. They were ridiculously proficient this year. And like your point to Burrow, I think is bang on. It's almost the same type of scenario. So if you like Joe Burrow, you should like Mac Jones. And I did like Joe Burrow, and I still do. So I have, through a bunch of rookie drafts so far, ended up with a few shares of Mac Jones and even some startups. And I'm quite comfortable with where I got him. I think he's got quite a future with him, ahead of him where he is.
I do want to clarify that I think Joe Burrow is a better talent than Mac Jones. I'm just talking strictly about the statistics. Everybody wants to make it seem like it was just the teammates that made Mac Jones. But when you've got Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase to throw to and CEH at running back, that's going to help you out as well. And we didn't hear all that about him. So I did want to clarify. I do not think Mac Jones is as talented as Joe Burrow. But that is still remains to be seen. So we'll just finish up because there's not much more quarterback talk, and we've already talked about these 5. Are there any other quarterbacks in this draft that you are targeting specifically in the late second, early third rounds or anywhere in that range?
Me?
Yeah, Nick, sorry.
Yeah, Davis Mills. I mean, you want. I mean, I don't know what's happening with Deshaun Watson. Is he ever playing football again? Is he even starting this year? And if you get a start, I mean, they traded up. They had limited picks and traded up to get him, which tells me they are worried. And from just little reports of trying to think of Drew. Is it Drew Doxson? I think I'm trying to think of he's a lawyer, but he works for football guys. He kind of talks about the situation, and I mean, it just doesn't sound good. And to me, I'm not projecting, but it's like, well, if I can get a starting quarterback, just like the Daniel Jones thing, just like Jordan Love, like what I don't care who it is. If they have a shot at being a starting quarterback, I'm going to take them because the value, I could just flip them later. So late second, early third, all day.
Sully, who's your
Yeah,
guy?
I guess it's Keelan Mond, and maybe that's a homer kind of take, but I don't know. He's again into that mode of dual threat quarterback esque and has some upside to his game in that area. I just don't know if the Vikings are ever going to give him a legit shot. So other than that, I guess you can look at Kyle Trask, but I think he's 2 years away as well. I don't think Tom Brady's going anywhere for at least a couple of seasons. So Davis
If
Mills, I
ever.
would say, yeah, that's true. He might last longer than me. But Mills for sure, I would think. Houston has added every quarterback with 2 feet and a heartbeat, from Tyrod to Ryan Finley to trying to fill all the holes can just in case. So I think Mills probably has as good a shot at starting as any of that quote unquote second tier quarterback group.
Yeah, I myself have found myself getting a lot of Mond, and I think it's more because the opportunity to sell him if he does get an opportunity and he shows that running ability similar to Jalen Hurts. I don't know if they're long-term quarterbacks in the NFL, but people get enamored with that. And the Houston situation, I've kind of just stayed away from because I have no idea what's going to happen there. But Davis Mills would be the guy after Mond that I would target. I'm not a big Trask fan, and I do think you are going to be sitting on him like you would be sitting on Jordan Love, or like we assumed you would be sitting on Jordan Love in Green Bay. But I think that's enough quarterback talk. We've had a lot of stuff happen. So after the quarterbacks in Superflex, Nick, who are you going after? Who's your guy in this class?
Yeah, I mean, basically, I just let the NFL draft figure it out for me. I mean, it's Jamar Chase. I think. I mean, you were talking about how people will love Joe Burrow in that situation, but then they hate on Mac Jones, and and the bias of what a lot of people will think bleeds over to so many other, all their followers or whatever else, and it's pretty contagious about the hate about Mac Jones. It's the same as the hate of like Kadarius Toney. But also, I mean, if we love Trey Sermon's situation, right? He landed the best situation and he's going to be awesome. And then they just ignore Najee Harris's situation. Like to me, that's what makes him fall for me. That you can't love one and hate the other. Like either okay, we have to talk about, or you don't talk about situations. And for me, because of where he landed, I'm avoiding running back early. I'm going to take Jamar Chase.
Sully, I already know your guy,
Yeah.
Mr. Pitts.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit.
I told the story so many times now, but I just love the athleticism of him. He's a wide receiver that plays tight end. He's huge. He's got a great wingspan, catches everything that comes near him. Like where he ended up. I had him at the top of my draft board pre-draft, and he's still there now. I could see him with 65 to 70 targets as a rookie, finishing as a top 8 tight end, which we haven't seen since Evan Ingram sort of fell into a tight end 5 finish in 2017. I just really like what Kyle Pitts gives me for the next, hopefully, 8 to 10 to 12 years. So I'm enamored with him, and I'm not changing my stance now.
I fall in on the Chase wagon too, and I think if he would have played this last year, the whole thing would be a lot different because people forget that he was regarded about as highly at wide receiver as Pitts is at tight end. Like Jamar Chase was, a lot of people said he was the best wide receiver prospect they had seen in years. But with a year off and people not seeing that, I think it brought him back into the question. I think he would have been the 101 easy if he would have played last year and he was fresh in people's minds. Nick, where do you stand on Pitts in this class? Where does he work out for you?
Oh man, this is going to be controversial. I'm against Kyle Pitts right now.
Oh,
I'm against and here's why. When I look at him as a player, love him as a player, love him as a weapon, love the athletic ability. I think he still needs some refinement in terms of route running, being more physical. I think he kind of just out athletes people, which he's a mismatch, nightmare. So he can do that. But I think the little things, and hopefully he learns that. But we also say, like, we hope that every little player will learn a little bit. And sometimes Cordell Pattersons don't learn how to run routes,
Or Anthony Miller, who's been one of my favorites.
There's so many. You're like, oh, boy, he's a great athlete. I mean, I love Patterson coming out, but I'm just referencing that because, Rob. But so for me, for Pitts to be the next guy after the quarterbacks and to go ahead of the running backs, go ahead of some of these great receivers, he has to have George Kittle, Darren Waller, maybe, obviously we have Kelsey, like type seasons. He has to have 1,000-yard and touchdown seasons. If he doesn't, and he becomes Hawkinson, Fant, Ingram, go back a ways, Jeremy Shockey, whatever type seasons, it's a negative return on investment. To me, that's a lot of risk. And like I said earlier, I don't want to take the risk early in the first round. I'll take later. So I'm out on Kyle Pitts being, honestly, with the hype that I see sometimes on Twitter, I'm surprised he's not the 101 Dynasty startup pick because he's already in the Hall of Fame.
Where are you comfortable taking him in a one QB, let's say? Like, where would you rank him
in one QB? Hold on, I have my rankings right here. So you're gonna go probably crazy. I have him 7.
Okay.
So I don't hate him. I like him as a player, but he's behind Bateman, Devonta Smith, and the running backs in Chase.
Okay.
I hate to pile on you. I hate to have the Bears fans pile on you, Sully. We've had this discussion a bunch of times, and a lot of the same points that you made, Nick. Are the same arguments that I've been using because I feel the same way. I'm probably not as far back on him. I can't see taking him, especially ahead of Chase, because once you do that, like, not only does Pitts have to hit his ceiling, but you still have to hope that Chase doesn't hit his or come close to his, because just at the position of wide receiver, even if he's in the 85th percentile, he's probably still outscoring Pitts, and there's just no room for error with Pitts that high ahead of those guys, in my opinion.
Well, and here's a question. Okay, so even after this year and Swift and Akers and whatever the running back class, like they did okay, but they kind of disappointed, right? They didn't do what we thought maybe they would do. You could still flip them for any receiver, any tight end. You could flip them for Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, right? And to me, that's the point. When you want to get that ROI, you could take one of the running backs and flip them after a year, because tight ends take a while to develop historically. And there you got more points this season, and then you get Pitts back if you want.
Yeah, and that was my next point, is the wide receivers and the running backs have a ceiling just from a value standpoint of being the 101 overall player in a year to 3 years or whatever, where you can get whatever you want out of those people. And the position of tight end, just in general, doesn't have that upside. So you're giving up that potential upside by doing that. So we'll get off the Kyle Pitts pile on Sully stuff, and we'll talk about these running backs. So you were talking about Harris, so I'm assuming he's one, and then how do they go after that? You're fine, Sully. Why don't you fill us in here while Nick fixes that?
Yeah, so I do have Harris atop of my running back list, followed by Etienne and Williams. I think Etienne and Williams are pretty close to me. I really like where Harris is. I wish that Pittsburgh Pittsburgh would have also addressed their offensive line during the draft a little bit more than they did. It was the worst in the NFL last year. All indications it doesn't look like it's that much better now. But what it is with Harris that I really like, and I play only in PPR leagues, so his ability to catch the football and how much Ben has been keeping it near the line of scrimmage in his declining years, I think he's got a legit shot at having a heck of a good rookie year and career in Pittsburgh.
I do not disagree with that at all. Nick, you got it working? Can't hear you.
Nope, I think it cut out again there.
Yeah, I would agree with basically everything that you said there. It's historically a place under Mike Tomlin where we've just loved the running back. Like running backs, especially, obviously we've seen games from Benny Snell and some of the other fill-in type guys, but even D'Angelo Williams when he was like 50 had top 5 running back weeks and seasons in that offense, filling in for Le'Veon Bell. Obviously, we know how Le'Veon Bell was. We know how there we go.
There you go, Nick.
Sounds like we got you back. And we know how James Conner was when he was healthy. So we know that offense produces good running backs. So it's hard to ignore that. But I agree with the offensive line. It would be great if they did address that and got that a little bit better, because we did see, especially later in Le'Veon Bell's years there, he was he wasn't efficient as a runner, right? He just got a ton of touches. He went over 400 touches his last season with them and a lot of receptions, which helps pad that fantasy production. But as a runner, I think he averaged maybe 3.4 yards his last season there in Pittsburgh. So, up in that offensive line would be nice. So where do you stand on those guys, Nick?
Yeah, sorry about that, guys.
You're fine.
I actually, and again, this is before all this other news. We can chat about it, but I actually had ETN ahead of him, and I had him very close. All 3 really close, actually. I think all 3 are great prospects. I was really pleased with Javonte Williams' film, but when you look at the situation, ETN's
that face says it all. That's frustrating.
Yep, totally is.
I hate technical difficulties. I'm still dialing everything in that I just got to trying to get this whole studio set up. I'm getting ready to redo the entire room.
Just have to hire an interior decorator here pretty soon.
I just need to redo the walls, and I do have we got it working, Nick? Yep. Rearrange. I still got Ernie Banks, Ron Sano, Andre Dawson, and Fergie Jenkins to get up on my wall, but to go with the 4 Baez. I did. I ordered a custom print of Justin Fields decked out in all his Chicago gear. And there's a private signing coming up at the beginning of June, getting it autographed and getting my 16x20 Justin Fields up on the wall behind for the streams.
Nice. I'll hopefully have my Justin Jefferson on the wall behind me so I can somewhat compete with that soon.
Somewhat, except for not.
Yeah. Hey?
Man, I want to get Nick's opinion on this ETN news, because I think it's very, very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think it is too, and I'm not really sure what to make of it. Like, if it's like if they truly have drafted him in the first round the way it looks like they are, I think it was a colossal mistake, but who knows? I'm not sure I really buy into this is Travis Etienne's future. So what do you think?
Well, I will say that the NFL has changed a lot. They're letting their quarterbacks influence, especially the young guys, right? I mean, our older quarterbacks are getting pissed off because their teams aren't allowing them to have input on draft picks, but you've got Brady, who didn't like the way that he was involved in New England. You had Russell Wilson pissed off. Now you got Aaron Rodgers pissed off for that. But the Chiefs let Mahomes put in a lot of input on the CEH draft. And then you've got, Burrow wanting Chase, and you've got Trevor Lawrence, from what people have said, having some influence on getting Travis there. So that's part of it, right? Make your quarterback happy and avoid what you see people having done with their veterans, or at least make them happy when they're young. And then when they get older, I guess you piss them off and let them leave. But, I said this the other day, if we can have a very limited, a wide receiver from Memphis, limited usage in college, come into the NFL as a running back, who had no usage as a running back in college, and have success, then we can see a running back that was, showed receiving chops, come into the NFL and play a lot at receiver. I don't know that that's going to happen, but I've only got one share so far, but it hurts me that that's a possibility for that share. I wanted him at running back, but I do think people they've been signing off of James Robinson too fast just because he didn't have the draft capital. I feel that when you come in and you show what he showed, you're not going to lose all the touch. You're going to lose some. Like, there was no way he was going to have as many touches as he had last year, but they're not going to just take them all away from you, right? Because everybody wants to talk about Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay's not built like James Robinson. James Robinson's built more like Chris Carson, who was in that situation, had Rashad Penny get drafted. Even when Penny has been healthy, hasn't taken the touches away from Carson. Not that James Robinson is Carson and that it's going to go exactly the same, but there is another argument to that. Everybody wants to throw out Phillip Lindsay. Phillip Lindsay was never going to be a 3-down back in the NFL.
No, I am interested to see just how far Robinson slides, because he definitely appeared to be a volume-based guy. It's almost like the running back in Jacksonville had to be a volume-based.
Yeah, I will say that when you have a bad offense, volume is absolutely king, because you're not going to have the amount of touchdowns you need. I mean, look what Fournette did 2 years ago. What, with 3 touchdowns? Like, just that offense has been so bad. I do think the offense improving can make up for that with some more touchdown upside and potentially some better efficiency out of that offense. But, we've said it a million times, when you don't have to worry about the quarterback, it's a lot easier to key in on that running back, and it makes his life a hell of a lot harder. So we will see if that improves. Oh, no. Sully, talk for me here. I think when...
I see a note from our good friend Craig that my audio's out.
Yeah, your audio's working now.
Okay.
But we lost Nick. I don't know if he messaged you on anything, but
No, I haven't seen anything.
we will keep chugging along. This draft did finish up, and I will check. Michael, I think it was just a mistake that they didn't realize that it was SuperFlex. Why Chase went at 1, but we just let it play out there. We know that he's going to be, probably 6, 7 in that area somewhere in most of them. Sorry, looking at the chat there.
Oh, good.
Unfortunately, Nick has been having some issues with his mic cutting out, and it looked like he couldn't get that working again. But so looking
Oh,
at these,
maybe. No.
oh no,
Oh, crap.
that's unfortunate. Well, I appreciate you trying, Nick. I know
Absolutely.
I don't want you to get too frustrated. Obviously, I know you got other shows and stuff that you got to do and have it working for as well. But yeah. Yeah, I can't hear. I'm trying to read your lips, but I can't tell.
We'll definitely have
I
to,
think he,
nothing.
nothing.
We'll have to set up another time for Nick to come back and spend some time with us. So really look forward to tonight. It's unfortunate, but you know,
Hey, shit
technology's awesome when
happens, right? Shit
when it
happens.
works, right?
That's great when it works, not when it doesn't. Hey,
It's all
we
good, Nick. Don't worry
we
about it, brother.
appreciate you, Nick. We
100%.
appreciate you taking the time out. I know it's frustrating, and I'm sure you're more frustrated that it won't work than we are that it happened when you were on here with us. But hopefully you get it fixed, get it working, and have it ready for some of your other shows. I don't want you to feel bad for this show. Obviously, that's always rough, especially if you have to buy new gear. Thanks, Nick.
Nick. So, Rick, what do you make of the receiving order, the receivers that came off the board in this draft? So, Chase will say, perhaps it was a misunderstanding of format, but regardless, to see Waddle go off at number 2, where's Waddle for you right now?
I do think I have Waddle and Smith really close. I think they're both uber talented wide receivers. I'm not in love with either of their quarterbacks at the moment, but I do have high hopes for Tua long term. So I'm fine with that order. I'm fine if it goes Chase, Smith, Waddle. I am firmly Chase ahead of the rest of the guys, and I do think he would be well ahead of them if we saw him play like we talked about earlier in 2020. But after that is where I'm a little bit different than the way it went. I am Bateman after that, and then I am Rondell Moore, and then Elijah Moore. And then Marshall and Tony are a pretty decent bit behind that crew for me.
Yeah, I have Waddle at 2, like this draft board shows, and Smith at 3. And then Bateman is 4 for me, or it's Elijah Moore and Bateman. I keep confusing how I have them ranked. But let's look at what Waddle did as a freshman in that Alabama offense with Judy there, Ruggs there, Irv Smith there. All those cast of characters were in that offense, and he still had 800 and something yards, and I think it was 7 or 8 touchdowns. Slumped a little bit as a sophomore. And his pace to start this last year before he was injured was ahead of the pace that Smith put up in a Heisman Trophy winning season. So I think Waddle's definitely got some skills to him. I really like Smith as well. I think both of them will be fine. I'm not as far down on Bateman landing in Baltimore as I believe most people want us to think. I believe that part of the problem with the Baltimore passing game is that Dez Bryant was on your roster and playing football for you last year. They just didn't have the receiving talent. Went out and tried to get Juju, went out and tried to get a few other guys, didn't get them. So the only way they could replenish was through the draft, and they picked Bateman, who had an absolutely monster year in 2019, dealt with COVID in 2020 and some opting in and opting out and terrible quarterback play in Minnesota last year. So I like those guys. I'm still trying to wrap my head around Kadarius Toney. I don't really know what to do with him. So I've been shying away from him in most of my drafts and not getting him. So hopefully I'm more right than I am wrong on him, because I don't have any shares of him due to fear, which is not the greatest analytical tool, but it's all I got when it comes to him.
Right.
So not really sure. But and then to your point, there's a drop off considerably. of all positions, in my opinion, once you get to that part of the draft.
I will say that I would rather have Tony than Sermon or Carter. Um, but after that, I do find Brown, Rogers, and Eskridge very interesting. And Collins and Brown, I think they all went kind of in the order that I would be interested in them. But the running backs is where I really don't have a strong feeling past Williams. Like I'm ignoring Sermon at where he's going in most drafts. I do like Carter in the middle of the second round.
Yeah.
But after that, like they're literally the epitome of dart throws, right?
Yeah.
They either have a bad situation or bad draft capital or not very talented or I didn't like them on tape. Obviously, they're all very talented.
Right.
I can't get on board. I will look at this draft, and I would say that I would rather have Chuba Hubbard at 211 than I would Jamar Jefferson.
Yeah, I think Hubbard is an injury away from a very interesting role in a pretty probably interesting offense with some upside this year in Carolina. And I like Jameer Jefferson. I liked his tape, but I don't really like where he is, right? Like that I don't think that offense is very good. I expect Swift to carry the bulk of the mail there. Plus, they also got Rakeem Boyd, who I quite like. He was either drafted late or as an undrafted.
I think Boyd was undrafted.
Right.
Yep.
Arkansas, I believe, really liked him. Big guy, did a lot of damage with the ball in his hands. So I think there's a lot of sort of lesser tier guys. And Jamal Williams is not going away. He's going to catch some passes and be involved in that Lions offense, similar to how he was involved in the Green Bay offense. So I'm not as big on Jefferson based on situation. I'm a little worried about Sermon because there was just something there I didn't really like about him. His inability to really distance himself from Master Teague at Ohio State, running behind two really, really good offensive lines at Oklahoma and then Ohio State. He's a bigger, taller guy, so he's a little bit more of a target for the defenders. He's an upright runner, whether you buy into that or not. I just think there's more of him to hit when he has the ball, which increases the odds of injury. And we all know every running back's next carry might be their last. So, and there's about 47 running backs in San Francisco, and any given day, that's the guy who Shanahan's going to give the ball to, and he's proven that for the entire time that he's been there. So, tough to hitch my wagon to Trey Sermon.
Let's do this.
Yeah.
We've got Mostert. We've got Wilson.
Yeah.
We've got Wayne Gallman. We've got Mitchell.
Yeah.
Who am I missing? Because I know there's another one.
You're missing Hasty.
And they got another one in this draft, right? Another rookie.
Well, they got Mitchell late. They probably signed an undrafted free agent as well.
But that's five guys that people have at least been intrigued by at some point. All vying for probably two of them are probably going to be available, right? And that would be that could potentially be good for some of that value. One of the reasons why I like Hubbard and I don't mind taking him in the back end of the second round is because there's something else built into him that most of these guys don't have. The CMC owner is probably going to be in the hunt. And if something would happen to him, the value that Hubbard's going to have to that owner, or you, if you are in the hunt, could be astronomical compared to that price you're paying at the back of the second round. So it's not necessarily just his talent or situation, but it's just the intrinsic value he would have if CMC would go down. And you know me, I was the proponent of selling CMC, so I don't have any. And that's the guys that I like to get. I like to get other people's backups so that I can.
That was going to be my next question for you. Are you more interested in Hubbard being the CMC owner, or are you more interested in Hubbard being the non-CMC owner?
I'm more interested in backup running backs when I do not own the guy in front of them, right? I just feel like, there are, okay, so when we're talking about guys behind actual workhorse backs, right? Like behind Zeke, behind CMC, behind Dalvin Cook, behind those select few guys that are the guy on the team and are going to eat most of the touches. When it comes to, the backfields where they're split and they're all like the San Francisco, like it's pick one and hope you're right and hope that guy ends up being the guy. But yeah, I like having guys that aren't dead roster spots, that aren't tied to somebody else's value on my squad.
Right.
Basically he is a dead spot if CMC's playing no matter what. But if I lose my starter and fill him in with his backup, I'm not getting that same production, right? We're not getting Dalvin Cook production out of Madison.
Right.
But if I'm healthy and somebody else gets hurt on another team and I have their backup, then that could just be me adding depth the next year, because I can move that guy, in some spots, maybe for a back half first round pick, just because that team is in the hunt and they need to fill that spot. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into that for me because we're talking about dart throws here, right? Like we talked about it. Once we get past the middle of the second round, everything after that is just, every draft I see is a different order. I see Eskridge going in the second round. I see St. Brown going in the middle of the second round in some. And then, Gainwell going in the fourth round of some. Hubbard going in the second round of some. Like, it's such a hodgepodge of stuff. It's just a taste thing. So I'm going to go for those guys just in those prime positions where I can get the prime value out of them if they do end up in that prime spot, because I don't see Chubbard. It's easy.
That works.
Easy, right? I do not see Hubbard being a long-term fix in the NFL. So if I have the opportunity to flip him for either a better second, like a top half of the second, or a back end of the first, just because of that situation where you can get people to overpay, I don't mind doing that. But I do think I would be taking one of the quarterbacks ahead of those guys in the second round, whoever's your flavor, because I think they're all toss-ups, right? I don't feel really confident with any of them, so that's where I'm at there. What about you?
I'm about the same. I think where it's trying to draw the lines directly to the finish line, like the shortest point, right? Like I like Hawkins in Atlanta, because if Mike Davis goes down, there's no one there. He's got a direct route to significant amount of touches. I don't think he has the frame to be a 3-down back and to sustain it, but he's going to get more touches than he ever would before. I like Ramondre Stevenson in New England because he's a big, huge beast of a man. I think he's about 6 feet, 230 something. Goal line back with a ton of upside. Nobody runs the ball inside the 5 more than Belichick. The only concern I have there is if Cam's still the quarterback, he's not handing the ball off inside the 5. He's just running it himself. But it's guys like that, I took, who the heck did I take in here? I took Hill in the 4th because if Aaron Jones goes down, I think there's an opportunity for him in Green Bay. Like, it's just, when you're throwing darts, you might as well throw it at the highest upside guys you think you can find. If you're going to be cautiously optimistic, do that early with the guys that you feel have maybe a safer floor that also contain the ceiling. That's why they're first-round picks. But later in the draft, find guys like Jalen Darden who are shifty and can do a ton of things with the ball in their hands and might find lightning in a bottle. And if those guys do hit, I would be looking to move them fast as I could before, the starters come back or their draft capital is discovered. So a thing I didn't do with James Robinson last year was move him when he was found money. We'll see if I made a mistake there or not.
See, and that's where I differ just a little bit. I don't think you have to trade those guys, but you have the opportunity to if that arises. You have options, right? Because you didn't pay a steep price for them, so you didn't really expect to get anything out of them. yes, it is nice if you turn it over, but depending on where your team's at, if your team is a team that you feel like is going to be competing and you want to ride out somebody like James Robinson last year, like you can't forget how valuable James Robinson was. He was one of
Totally.
2 running backs that scored at least 10 PPR points in every game. Dalvin Cook was the other one. He was a consistent guy that helped you win games, didn't lose you any, and had a couple weeks where he put up close to 30 to help you win weeks. So
Totally.
if you ride that out, like everybody wants to say, I told you so, but you're not losing much if that player flames out, right? Like you didn't spend a lot of, now if you traded a first round pick for him last year to buy him from somebody in the offseason, you may have wanted to look to try to recoup as much of that value as you could have. But if you got him on the waiver wire, what are you losing? Like, I understand
Nothing.
You could have got something for him, but you could also get a lot of upside out of him. You've already seen him do it. So there's a lot of different ways to look at it, and none of it's perfect because we don't know. Shit changes so fast. But yeah, so I agree 100% with Hawkins. I've scooped him up in a lot of spots because of that. Just being, I mean, Ito Smith got an opportunity.
Right.
Well, what I don't remember the guy with the Q in his name that got an opportunity.
Quadre
Olsen, like
Brian Hill.
Yeah, the Atlanta, like
Terrible.
I don't even know what to call those guys. The hodgepodge running back group that they've had over the last few years, since Coleman and Freeman's big years, has just, I mean, they've got opportunities. So I don't think we're not going to see Hawkins get an opportunity at some point.
Yeah, he's going to touch the football. I just don't know what he's going to do with it. But you might as well take a guy that you think's going to touch the football versus not, right? Hey, I don't know who this tight end Jay Rice is. I
don't know
clue.
if that was an auto pick. I don't know if that person didn't. I don't.
Jerry Rice isn't coming back, is he?
Jared Rice, 24 years old. Oh, dude, I think he's waived by the Chargers 10 months ago. He was not even a rookie.
That's weird because I didn't know who he was
in there.
I thought maybe Jerry Rice was coming back and playing tight end because he probably still could.
Well, I mean, if Tebow can, Jerry Rice probably can, right?
Kelvin Benjamin, baby.
Kelvin Benjamin, Queen Latifah on her way back, baby. Okay, CXK says 12-team Superflex, 4 rounds, 111, Zach Wilson, QB 202, Mac Jones. What?
Oh, he wants to know how we did. He got Wilson at 111 and Jones at 202.
Wait, what?
That's outstanding. I don't know how you did that, but awesome.
12 in a Superflex, or did you mean 1 QB? Because how did they fall that far in Superflex? Congratulations. I'm very happy for you. You won the draft, sir.
Yes, sir. That's a steal.
We will send you a ribbon.
Must be a bunch of crazy Kyle Pitts fans in that league.
There must be a bunch of crazy Pat Freiermuth. There must be a bunch of crazy Jared Rice fans in that draft.
He said, sorry, I accidentally put the positions in there. 2 QB. Wow. You stole those guys. That's outstanding.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Congratulations. I'm happy for you. He said Pitts went 101 in a Superflex 2 QB.
Even I think that's nuts.
I do want to say this. I know we're both baseball fans, but how can we not appreciate what Shohei Ohtani's doing right now? 2.10 ERA, the same as Max Scherzer, and leading the MLB in home runs. And I think he just hit another ding-a-ling.
That's unbelievable.
Yep.
Like when you think about how historically pitchers usually have the inability to hit, for him to be able to do that is unbelievable. And
dude, I called it.
Hopefully stays healthy.
Freiermuth went 110.
Freiermuth 110.
I called it.
It's a tight end premium.
Yeah, that was my next question.
because even it's still a little bit crazy, but at tight end premium,
but it's got to be it's got to be at least 2 points too. It can't just be 1.5.
We play in that crazy bonus league, and Pitts went at 102 behind Lawrence, and I thought even that was a little high in that draft.
No, I would have taken Pitts 101 in that league.
You would, hey?
Dude, I went Kittle. I went Kittle and Kelsey. I spent most of my budget on those two guys in V2 last year.
Smart.
And the tight ends just score so many points.
That's true. Kelsey's the leading scorer in that entire league.
I could actually see doing that in that league. But I wouldn't argue Lawrence or him at 101. But it has to be one of those two guys in that specific league. It is a tight end premium. I hope it's at least 2 points per, at least. It should be like 3 for Freiermuth to go in the first.
Well,
ahead of Wilson.
Ahead of those 2 point premium for tight ends. Yeah, you're right. So,
I nailed that league scoring, didn't I?
Yeah, you got it all figured out.
Freiermuth in the first round.
That's pretty good.
All you got to do is tell me that you got lucky, and I can figure everything else out.
We were talking about dart throws earlier, and one of my favorite kind of 4th round guys is Brevin Jordan, just based on opportunity and athletic ability. He's another one of those guys that, Jordan Akins doesn't scare me, and Houston's offense does, but at the same time, I think Jordan's going to get targets and touches, and he's going to be on the field. So
I think, and I do want to say this, I think that there's too much that bad quarterback can't produce good fantasy asset nonsense around, right? These guys, these bad quarterbacks are still going to throw 400 to 500 or 500 times a year, and if not more. And we've seen it time and time again with, if somebody is talented, that they can produce with bad quarterback plays. Same thing with the Devontae Adams hate right now. I seen, I think the draft today that we seen on our friends Front Yard Fantasies mock draft, startup draft, I think he went in the 3rd round. That's crazy. Like, he's now dropping out of the 1st round all the way to the 3rd just because people think his quarterback might leave. Devontae Adams also has 1 year left on his deal. So at worst, he's going to be getting thrown to by Blake Bortles, who we know can produce fantasy wide receivers just because he's that bad and he just heaves it up. Like, that's not necessarily a bad thing.
And they'll be trailing, so they'll be throwing.
Yep.
I think bad quarterbacks is nothing new to Houston. Like, when you Google the list of quarterbacks that DeAndre Hopkins played
and
with,
Andre Johnson before that.
Right. Before Deshaun Watson, it's disgusting. It's Ryan Mallett. It's TJ Yates. It's Brock Osweiler. It's terrible.
Matt Schaub.
And he was still Matt Schaub. That's another one. Like, so yeah, I agree. Like, you can make as much as you want out of even, Lamar Jackson's ability to throw the football. He's still going to complete 300 and some odd passes a year, and they're going somewhere. So even a 30% target share at that rate of completions is going to be fantasy relevant. So
that's the important thing that you said, is sometimes it's not about the team's volume either. It's about how much of that target share that wide receiver is going to get, right? If you're talking about a guy that's going to get 30% of the volume plus, it doesn't matter if they only throw it 450 times compared to somebody that throws it 550. And if that wide receiver is getting 20%, getting 12% less, like it's going to make up for it. So, look, the Bears are a perfect example, right? Like, Allen Robinson he's had shitty quarterbacks his entire career, but he gets such a high percentage of the passing volume that even though the quarterback play is bad, it works out. Same thing with Hopkins.
I was reading about Allen Robinson that even his college quarterbacks were shitty. Like, the guy's never had a good quarterback.
He was at Penn State, and they barely ever have great quarterbacks, right?
Freaking unreal. But you're totally right. That 100%.
So it's a lot. It's real easy to get in our own, like, tunnel visioned outlook on players and their situations and everything like that. But we know that the NFL changes so fast, right? Yeah. Just a few weeks ago, the outlook at quarterback in Chicago did not look good. And some people are going to hate Fields. Some people are going to like him. He's either going to bust or he's not. But the outlook looks a lot better now. And people didn't think there was any chance that was going to change before we got to the season this year. So that's just another example. Marcus Mariota was the quarterback in Tennessee. They had a did we drop on YouTube?
We came back though.
Okay.
It was weird. I don't know what happened.
Oh, all the technical difficulties tonight. But
it's a fun night.
But Ryan Tannehill wasn't sought after. Nobody thought Ryan Tannehill was good. We see what happened to him when he got away from Gase. It's the NFL changes so fast. People don't get too tied up. I understand for immediate returns, the landing spot means something, right? It does. It absolutely does.
And that's why I'm so interested in
Kenneth Gainwell,
Sorry, go
right?
ahead.
Kenneth Gainwell.
Yep.
Like that spot is not great for an incoming rookie. Miles Sanders, Boston Scott, Kerryon Johnson. Obviously we would like to see Kellen Mond not behind a guy that's fully guaranteed for 2 years. But talent wins in this league. And if you go out and do the job and you do it better than other people, you will have a long career unless you're a running back.
Right. And people get hurt. It's a tough sport. There's a lot of injuries, and injuries create opportunities. As morbid as that might be, it's a reality. And yeah, like I can't remember what I was going to say before, but you're right. It's every guy that we looked at. I think we've talked about this before. I watched a film on 108 offensive players this offseason, and I didn't hate any because they're all incredibly gifted and athletic people. They wouldn't be playing at the level of college football that they were if they weren't.
Wouldn't be in the NFL discussion if they weren't great at the sport. I've said it about Ronald Jones a billion times. I don't love him. I don't want any of him. Ryan McDowell actually posted, like, which player, no matter how far they drop in drafts, will you not draft? And I said Ronald Jones.
Mine was Devontae Parker forever.
I don't even know. If Ronald Jones will get more touches than Giovanni Bernard in that offense.
I think that's a great late round grab this year if you're doing a startup.
Bernard, James White 2.0. He's probably better than James White too.
Yep, totally.
Yeah, so there is one guy that I can't figure out in rookie drafts this year, though, and that is Anthony Schwartz. NFL draft capital. Obviously, the situation immediately doesn't look great because you've got the Landry and you've got Odell. But how long are those guys going to be around in that offense with all the money they've put into the defense, the line? Quarterback's going to need to get paid. How is he dropping as far as he is with that draft capital in a situation that maybe you do have to wait a year? How cheap? He's going to be a guy you can pick up off the waiver wires if he doesn't do anything. Because
where did he go in the NFL draft?
Let's see if it shows right here.
Like fourth round?
I thought he was higher than that.
He may have been. That whole draft I had my head down. It was a blur.
He went 91st overall. So what? Third round.
Yeah, top 100 guy. That's significant draft capital for sure. I believe both Landry and Odell are free agents at the end of this season as well. I don't know if Higgins came back. Did they bring him back or no?
If who?
Rashad Higgins. Did they re-sign him?
I would have to look. We can do that.
So there's really not anybody else there, right? And then you get into their trio.
You had
tight end.
Donovan Peoples.
Yeah.
You have him, but I mean, those are him and Schwartz are the young guys out of the crew, right?
Yeah.
Like Higgins
and I like
is up
him
there
too.
Yeah, so it's like when I'm looking at this draft and I see, shoot, that's not who I was clicking on. Where did he go in the draft?
Who's that?
257 is where Jamar Jefferson went. Like, if people want to talk about, draft capital and everything, Diami Brown was in that same range as him. But who was it I was just looking at?
Were you looking at Tylan Wallace?
Yeah, like Wallace went ahead of him in this draft. Wallace was 131st. He was 40 picks later.
I I like his spot too. Again, there's no one else there. It's him and Bateman. And like all due respect to Miles Boykin and Sammy Watkins, I don't think that those guys are going to be leading the team in targets necessarily. I think Andrews probably still will, along with Bateman and maybe Sammy if he can stay healthy. But Wallace is another guy that's not far away and was pretty darn impressive from what I saw.
What do you think about Tutu?
I don't understand the pick from the Rams' perspective. Like I'm bigger than he is, and that's a pretty big red flag right off the top. Like I shouldn't weigh more than a guy playing in the NFL, but I don't get it. Like unless you're saying that Van Jefferson was a total mistake and a wasted pick last year, why a team with such limited amount of draft capital and resources that needs some offensive line upgrade in a big way went out and spent a second rounder on a wide receiver again this year confuses me. Like Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp are still there. I understand that, he'll probably run more 4 wide sets without Everett there and just Higbee at tight end, but I truly don't understand the pick at all.
Same. Unless they wanted a deep threat. I mean, that's the only thing that I can think of is that they wanted a deep threat, a guy to play that like Brandon Cooks role that he had a couple years ago. I don't see, Van Jefferson, Robert Woods, and my boy Cooper Kupp, brain fart. They're all technicians, good. Right? They're not going to beat you with speed. They're not going to beat you, straight line down the field. I think that might be the reason why they did it, is they wanted that. But he didn't even run as fast as people thought he was going to run, right? Like, I think he ended up being like 4.4, and they thought he was going to be in the 4.3s. But that's
signed Deshaun Jackson too.
Yeah, I forgot all about him.
I just remembered while you were talking about a guy to take the lid off. I don't know what he's got left, but he's another guy that can just stretch the field for you.
Yeah, I guess if you're building your offense with Deshaun Jackson in mind, you better have somebody that can fill in for that role. Because he's not going to play but for a few weeks before you got to put somebody in that spot. And if you don't want to change your entire offense, you got to have somebody that can at least run in a straight line. So that may be it. It may just be insurance. It may be an insurance policy on Deshaun Jackson. But yeah, that was really the only other guy on this list that I had in mind. Is there anybody else that you want to talk about before we take off?
No, not really. I do like Jalen Darden, but he's buried in that Tampa offense. Shifty guy, does tons of great stuff with the ball in his hands. It was fun to watch his film at North Texas, but Tyler Johnson's there. Antonio Brown is back. Scotty Miller's still there. So his path to opportunities it's pretty uphill. So we'll see what happens there. But you never know. Like you said, things change in a hurry, right? AB could be gone anytime.
Godwin could be gone after this year.
Right. Brady could retire. Like the Tampa Bay team could turn on a dime if they can somehow repeat their championship. They might all just walk away.
I would say that it's very likely that it turns on a dime, that it goes from this team to a completely, about as fast as it turned into this team, right? Especially from the offensive side, is we've seen in 1 year we saw not an entire difference, because obviously Godwin and Evans had been there, but outside of that, everything was pretty much different. And it could flip on them just as fast after Tom Brady says he's done, because Godwin's not going to take a deal to stay in Tampa Bay when Tom Brady's not there.
Right.
None of those guys are. There's guys on the defense that are taking deals to stay there because Brady's there, and they know I might be able to win another Super Bowl. And I would like to have multiple fingers loaded with rings like Mr. Tom Brady.
I can't think of a team that literally brought their entire team back before, though. I don't know if I've ever seen this before.
It is definitely crazy. It is definitely crazy, but this is what happens when you give your quarterback, especially an all-time great, the reins, and you say, "Listen, I understand this team is yours, right? This is your team. we're going to do what you want to build the team that it's going to take for you to win. Who knows better than the quarterback what it's going to take for him to be successful and for the offense to be successful? And you know, Bruce Arians is hard-nosed as he is, knew that with Tom Brady coming in, if we give Tom Brady what he wants, we're going to be at least be in position to win a Super Bowl. And it worked out.
You got to think that's part and parcel with Brady going there in the first place, right? Like, there's got to be some words in his contract that say, I'm running the show. So,
yep.
Cool. But yeah, man, I don't really got anything else other than that.
Yeah, I just want to tell everybody that tuned in. Obviously, we had some technical difficulties. Nick, with his microphone, went out in the middle of the stream, so unfortunately he had to go early. Hopefully he gets that fixed up, but make sure you check him out on Twitter, _ Nick Whalen, WHALEN, and you know, check out his ranks and everything wherever you can. He's always posting stuff on his Twitter. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button on this video, and as always, check out Discord, RotoHeat.com. I just want to say the support on the website, like, we keep moving up. I love it. The guys love it. Obviously, they love to produce content that people see. And
it's not a bad thing.
Make sure to hit that subscribe button. I actually had Jason Kendall. You remember Jason Kendall?
Why do I know that name?
Catcher for a long time in MLB, but I doubt it was him. But we have Randy Johnson and Jason Kendall following us.
Perfect.
Subscribe to us on YouTube. So we're building
Just
out.
don't try to interview.
We're building out.
Just don't try to interview Randy Johnson. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that is going to be it for today. Chat was pretty quiet. I think, you know, it's just a weird show that we had today.
Yeah.
I will be back next Tuesday with Brad. These guys are just taking all the vacations. I can't remember who's the guest next week.
Ian Hartitz from PFF.
Yes. Ian Hartitz from PFF is on next week, and we'll be here at 9:30. I believe the Devi show or the IDP show will be back Monday, 9:30 p.m. Brad and Craig will be there ready to talk some IDP action. So, Sully, any last words?
No, just thanks for tuning in, everyone. I know this was not the smoothest show in the world to watch, but we appreciate you being here nonetheless, and we appreciate the support at the website and everywhere else we're dropping content these days.
All right.
Thank you.